Awesome. So we're joined here, Dave Schneider, and we're going to talk about outbound campaigns for the purpose of link building. So, Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And yeah,
Sure. Yeah. Hey guys, everyone listening out there. My name is Dave Schneider, and I used to run Ninja Outreach, which was an influencer marketing software that was also commonly used for outbound campaigns, link building, things of that nature. And now I do a lot just with consulting with SaaS companies, helping them set up their inbound and outbound marketing campaigns. So I've been kind of working in this space for a number of years, and I'm based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
awesome. So your specialty is basically outbound for the purpose of link building, correct? So,
Yep, that's
what
right.
sort of best practices can you recommend for outbounds for link building?
Yeah, there's a lot of everyone wants to do outbound because it's fairly easy to set up a campaign and basically get a list of leads and then kind of just shoot out a message. And it's a lot easier than trying to write content and rank it and things like that. So it's a common tactic that people are working on. I think the first thing that everyone needs to understand is that outbound really starts with the prospecting. So a lot of people think about the template that we write and when we send it, what time of day, and all those different types of things. But if you don't really have a good list of leads, then none of that stuff really matters. So are the leads, are they targeted? Are they personalized with a right first name and a person in a position that's actually relevant to kind of who you're reaching out to? Those are the types of things that you really need to ensure when you've got a list of people that you're going to reach out to. Outside of that, personalization is the big thing that everybody kind of talks about. But what does that really mean, right? So does that just mean that you have some custom fields where you say kind of like, hey, first name, and then that gets filled in with Mark or whatever it is? That's kind of like basic level personalization. And in my opinion, kind of depending on the niche, the expectations might be a little different. So in the marketing and business niche where people have just received so many inbound emails, they're really kind of expecting something a little exceptional to kind of pay attention to it. Whereas in other niches where marketers haven't necessarily ruined them yet, basically, they're a little bit more relaxed about maybe what they expect. But if you assume it's kind of marketing business niche, that's where a lot of people are kind of working now. They're expecting a real high level of personalization. And I received an email like the other day that I thought was just like so spot on. It like blew me away. If the person automated it, I'd be like really impressed. But basically, some of the things that they did, aside from obviously like mentioning my first name and stuff like that, was that they mentioned things like what day of the week it was. They were like, "Hey, hope you're having a happy Wednesday." So okay, well, that you could automate that if you sent that campaign out on a Wednesday. But when I read it, I'm like, oh, okay, that to me feels very personal. Um, and basically, they referenced just a lot that they knew about the company and things like that. That was receiving the inbound email. So those types of tactics. I read Nathan Lotka's book recently, and he wrote that at the end of an email, he'll write something like, I've got to catch a flight tomorrow in the morning, but I'll respond as soon as I can. Those little like afterthought add-ons in an email also make it feel really personal, but they don't necessarily have to be personalized. You can actually automate those types of things. So it's very much in the way you style the email. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And in terms of personalized, like how much time do you, I asked Mark Colgan the same exact question, like how much time do you think you should spend before it becomes like the point of diminishing returns for personalization?
Yeah, and that's kind of one of those things where you could, in theory, blast out 100 or more emails and spend almost very little time on personalization, maybe just kind of like custom fields and stuff like that. Or you could kind of really, really go in depth. So I think that we should be scientific about this, right? Because I don't think there's any one size fits all glove here. Some people are maybe they're just going to receive better results from sort of mass outreach, and other people from sort of personalized outreach. In my opinion, you should kind of go where you get the best results, even though in theory, a personalized outreach campaign is really better, just from a morality standpoint, so to speak. But morals aside, what I would encourage people to do is try both, right? So try 100 emails that you just kind of shoot out there, so to speak. and then maybe 100 personalized emails. Keep track of how much time each takes, and then keep track of the results, and then do the math yourself and kind of see what works better for you.
That's a really good answer.
That's the only way to
That's
really
the
know.
only way to scientifically know for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So you should be split testing, you know.
I read a recent article on the Got SEO blog about strategies versus tactics, and it was really good actually, because it was talking about how a lot of people read these tactics, link building, like the broken link one and so on, and they follow these. But I mean, in reality, like what you should be doing is thinking a little bit more strategic about your particular situation, because every industry and every niche is completely different, right? Like. And I think it definitely does begin with doing competitive analysis, doesn't it? Right? Seeing where other websites in your niche have backlinks from, and kind of spotting opportunities.
Definitely. Some of our best campaigns, outreach campaigns, come from using tools like Ahrefs, for example, and they have a feature where you can put in several competitors, like 3 or something, and they will find the overlapping backlinks that they all have, which basically says, this is, call it a warm backlink, for lack of a better word. It's a backlink that if all your competitors have it, there's a better than average chance that you would be able to basically get it yourself if you reach out to that webmaster. Maybe it ends up being a list post, or it's some sort of like ultimate guide to whatever your niche is. So those are good ways to start, because it depends on the niche, but usually the problem is not a lack of potential outreach targets. If you're in something really, really specific and niche, that might be the case, but then you have to kind of call into question the entire campaign and the channel as viable. But in most cases, we have like millions and millions of links we could, in theory, reach out to. So you're trying to kind of score those and understand which ones are going to be the best ones to go for.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, do you have any other final tips for the listeners over here about link building, like things they can watch out for? Or,
I'll leave everyone with a tactic. Everybody likes a tactic, and I had a friend of mine who I believe you had on the episode, David Hensel, mentioned the other day. So I'm going to share his tactic. He was doing podcast outreach, so basically reaching out to podcast owners and asking if they would, put them on the show and stuff. And he used what is called the forwarding technique, basically. And what it is you take sort of your email address, which could be, say, in my case, like Dave at whatever gmail.com. I don't know that email address, but let's just say it was that. There's many more Daves that jumped on the Gmail train before me. So basically, and then you forward it to, say, an assistant, which could be like Sam at gmail.com. And then Sam gets in touch with the podcast owner, and the forward says something like, hey, please get in touch with Mark about appearing on his podcast. And then Sam sends out the email to Mark and says, hey, Mark, my boss, Dave, told me to get in touch with you about appearing on the podcast, yada, yada, yada. And he does the normal pitch. And it just, again, looks very personalized, basically, because it looks like David really signaled out that podcast for the thing. And I mean, there is obviously some extra work that gets involved in that, but it's relatively easy to kind of do. And those types of things, I feel bad because, maybe it's a little bit, well, whatever, you call it what you will. It's a bit markety. But, those types of tactics are sometimes people like those. So I just figured we'd end on that.
Awesome, man. Well, it was a pleasure to have you on, man. And thanks so much for your advice. All right. If anybody wants to chat more, I mean, Dave's on the platform. So, yeah.
And I'm currently have $0 as my rate. So you're welcome to come and get in touch.
Awesome. All right. Take care, Dave.
See you, man.